Welcome to the Rob Liefeld Show featuring Robservations. I bring over 40 years experience in comic books and entertainment across 5 decades. I offer insights and opinions on the business and the art of comic books and pop culture. If it's happening in games, in movies, in streaming, or comic books, we're covering it right here on the Robservations Show. Hey everybody, and welcome to the Rob Liefeld Show featuring Robservations. Today, we are going to take you back a bit. We're going to go back to the origins of this show as we approach 5 years, half a decade. This show was born in the heart of the pandemic. All my kids were teenagers during the 2020 pandemic. And as I go back and I look through the earlier episodes of Robservations, the Rob Liefeld Show, and I see the stuff that I was talking about, and I revisit some of the, like, literally the pain that we were all suffering from, the isolation. Can't go out, you can't go to the beach. I think when the earliest episode of Robservations of the Rob Liefeld Show was airing, I speak of that my wife Joy and I were just now getting to go out to an outdoor dining patio, that things were starting to break through in late May, early June of 2020. And among the first topics that we spoke of in the earliest episodes of this show was my earliest encounters with the comic books that I love, but more importantly, what those early comic books contained, because they were a bit of a revelation. They were an absolute revelation to me because of what they contained, and we're gonna go over that, because today I have visual. Oh man, I pulled out the comics. Some of these are actually the absolute copies, and we're gonna go through this. The title of this episode is The Swipe Files. You'll recall, and I'm going to tell you right now, I called these familiar characters, I called them echoes. I had never been exposed to the terminology of swipe or homage, so I called them echoes, because I'm like, that guy kind of looks like Superman. That guy kind of feels like Green Lantern. This entire group kind of looks like the Legion of Superheroes. But taking you all the way back, my comic book collecting and my obsession with it began at a very young age. And I got to be honest, going back and revisiting early episodes, I read and listened to some of my mission statements about this show. Why did it even exist at all? And I focused in on one part that said, I am concerned that the history of comic books is fading. That there is a generations that were not experiencing the same stuff that me and my peers. Who are my peers? My peers, I've covered it. We're all fairly still high profile in this business, whether you like it or not. It's Todd McFarlane, it's Jim Lee, it's myself. It's all the Image founders, Mark Silvestri, Eric Larson. Jim Valentino skews a little older, but that makes it cool that he came in and folded in with us. The Dale Keowns, the Ron Lim. Shortly thereafter, you had J. Scott Campbell, you had the Mike Turner, you had the Dan Fragas, the Marat Michaels. You had all these different guys of a similar age group, and we all grew up loving and obsessing a certain age of comic books. That age was defined and branded as the Bronze Age of comic books, and there's little wiggle room there, but not much. Most people agree the Bronze Age was started at the death of Gwen Stacy, when, this terrible, like, how could Spider-Man's girlfriend die, introduced kind of a new level of seriousness, darkness to comic books that hadn't yet been kind of, something that people had interacted with. And then it ends, the Bronze Age ends with the finale of Watchmen and Dark Knight, two of the most kind of impactful works in the history of the graphic comic book storytelling medium. And again, mature themes, a little more introspective about the actual medium and the deconstruction of the superhero. That is, so that brings you about 1972 1971, 1972 to 1986, 87. Those are the parameters of the Bronze Age of comics, and in it is it's all of my favorite stuff. Not some of, all of my favorite stuff. And I began consuming these comics at such a young age. But as I've shared over the years, I've realized I wasn't that late to the game. I'm about 10 years into the birth of Marvel Comics when I start interacting with them. And at the time I thought, man, I'm 10 years behind. How can I possibly catch up with all this? And now I look back and I'm like, man, I was scraping the surface. I was really with the second wave of seminal creators, the guys that follow the Jack Kirby, the John Buscema's, the Steve Ditko, the John Romita Seniors, which was the Rich Buckler, George Perez, John Byrne, Jim Starlin, Howard Chaykin, those guys, okay? Also in that earlier realm was the Gil Kane, because we're going to talk a little about Gil Kane, because boy, his covers are all over these comics. But let me tell you something. The history of comics, I believe, is still, I read about what I call wishful thinking all the time. And here's why the history of comics cannot be changed. It has been recorded. It has been recorded in fanzines. In an upcoming episode, I'm going to give you my pile of fanzines, and many of which I haven't shared with you yet because I refer to the sci-fi magazines that I was so into, Starlog. Oh, baby, do I have a pile of Starlog magazines to share with you, and some of the photos and some of the pictures that we as fandom were seeing for the first time, reveals of the sequel to Star Wars, where you're like, oh my gosh, snowtroopers. I've talked about it, but I'm going to show you. And I can remember sitting, that particular Starlog was on the way into a Ralph's. Out here we have a Ralph's. Ralph's, Vaughn's, Stater Brothers, Alpha Beta. These were the supermarkets of my youth. Now it's Whole Foods and Bristol Farms and all the bougie, that one in LA that is super duper bougie. Okay, this we are, still a supermarket society, but we are most definitely a step higher than the stuff that I encountered. But as I entered Ralph's, they had the magazine stands right there, kind of at the entrance kitty corner. I mean, there was you're facing cashiers, so it wasn't like you were going to grab anything and run out. And I wasn't a thief anyway. But if as ridiculous as it sounds, you walked in, my mom would grab the cart, boom, be off. I would look, is there? Oh, Starlog, more important to me than Sports Illustrated. Okay, more important to me than in any of the celebrity magazines my mom bought. Starlog magazine. Also, all these comic book fanzines, or the comic book press, the Comics Journal, the Amazing Heroes, the Comics Interview magazine, stuff that I read from interviews, statements, facts, sales figures, data. That stuff you cannot wish away. There is a growing frustration, and I always compare it to sports, and I heard it again this morning before I hopped on here with you. Is the old guard gone? They said, Steph Curry's gone, LeBron James. This is the first time there is no California or Texas teams represented in I don't know how long in the NBA Finals. Will a new generation of stars be born? I believe this is kind of the plight of the guys today. Why are we still talking about some of these older guys? And I am one of the older guys. I'm not the oldest guy, but I am one of the older guys. And we continue to embrace this. And I'll tell you, I embrace it because I freaking love it. Comic books is my lifeblood. Right here in that vein, that spills out. Well, this is chocolate and peanut butter, and that's comic books, okay? That is my lifeblood. I don't like, and I didn't at the time, like talking about collecting comics. I didn't collect comics when I was a kid. And this is what you got to understand. For people like Liefeld, like my age, Todd McFarlane, he can relate. We did not bag and board comics. The stuff that was here on the spinner rack, and some of the stuff behind it is older and it's crumpled, and some of those are my actual copies. I call them the reader copies now. They weren't reader copies. They were the only copies that you were capable of interacting with. The spinner racks of old, you could miss a month or 2 months of your favorite comic because maybe there's only 2 or 3 ordered for that certain store, and if somebody else went in and bought them, you didn't get to order more. They were done. You would then catch up with the next issue or whichever one. And you'd have holes in your collection. Not everything what was complete copies or torn. Yes, comic books that you purchased for 25 cents, for 20 cents, later 30 cents, a nickel, it seemed like every year there for a while that they went up. Those uh, those comics sometimes were tattered and sometimes they were torn. And you just dealt with it. You didn't care. Now I've talked about my favorite comics. My mom would put her wet Coke, tumbler on my favorite issue of the Avengers of the X-Men, and it would get a wet ring, and I'd be like, what is going on? But I was terrified of my mom, other than like, Mom, could you please stop? And she thought my comic books were her coasters, okay? Later, I would replace some of those, and thank God I did them early in the 80s. I replaced so much of the 70s comics that my mom used as coasters. I didn't collect comics. There wasn't a bagging and a boarding. There wasn't a ritual. You stacked your comic books in your drawer. I had a dedicated drawer in my dresser that was comic books. Then they moved to a shelf as I got maybe 60 or 65, 70 comics. You didn't bag them. You didn't board them. You certainly didn't collect them. I did not encounter a comic book store till late 1980, early 1981. Late 1980 for sure. But the comic books that I was coming across in 1974 and 1975. Now, in 1975, I am 7 most of the year, 8 in October of that year. Okay? I turn 10 in October 1977. So, I'm either 7 or 8 in 75. I'm 6 or 7 in 74. I've talked to you guys about some of the comics I couldn't get, I couldn't obtain. I'd see them because I'd run inside with my dad on the way home from church at the 7-Eleven or the liquor store as he was grabbing soda for my mom, some snacks, some chips, some whatever. And when I approached the comics, no, you can't have those, right? Okay. I've covered that was a pretty tricky, pretty tricky enterprise that I entered into, buying and hiding comic books. My very first meaningful Marvel comic was Fantastic Four 147. I've told that story here, how Fred the Barber traded me for some Richie Rich and some Casper the Friendly Ghosts. That's 1974. It would take me about a year to wear my parents down, have them realize that I wasn't not going to worship Satan, take drugs, and become a serial killer because of my consumption with comic books. And that's what I've told you guys. I consume them. They were like oxygen to me. Once I was finished reading them and experiencing the awe of these comics, I would then try and draw the pictures. I would draw the characters. I would fill up notepads. I mean, I didn't even know of drawing, like a drawing tablet, until I bumped into the art store in the mall, and I was like, wow, you can get really nicer paper and Strathmore 2-ply. That's a name of a style of paper and a pad. So this was all kind of a slow awakening for me. But early on, and I'm going to talk about a very concentrated period of time that this is 1975 to 1976. You can even go maybe late 74 to mid 77. But this was something that was going on between Marvel and DC specifically, what I called the echoes, what we would now call swipes or homages. And once again, sidebar, only comic books gets upset by this, because when Quentin Tarantino takes from some Japanese director, or when George Lucas takes from Kurosawa, or when Steven Spielberg takes from John Ford or Alfred Hitchcock, we just go, cool, that's awesome, way to go, guys, way to homage. In music, when they sample another track and lay it down and make a cooler song, okay? Like there was, oh man, it's going to escape me. There was a band that took Spandau Ballet's True, and they turned it into a kind of a rap song. And of course, I'm forgetting it right now. But nobody went, wait, I can't listen to them. PM Dawn, that's it, PM Dawn. Oh man, they made a very cool and Spandau Ballet, who was a new wave band that I listened to in high school, suddenly had a new hit on their hands in 1991 with PM Dawn, who turned it into a hip hop kind of rap tune with True sped up a little as the background. We all applauded it, but in comics, it's like scorn, shame. Not me, guys. Some people try and throw those rocks at me, but there are other people who've had to bear this cross around their neck, like that guy was nothing but a swiper. when it's like, no, he was just doing what his editors told him to do in the early 70s, or what they told him to do in the late 60s, or maybe it was just something that he really enjoyed doing. And obviously there are tentpole artists in this business that you can kind of draft their influence to. Neil Adams. And out of Neil Adams, you get Mike Grill, and you get a guy named Mike Nasser who went way too fast. You also get John Byrne out of that. You get Bill Sienkiewicz out of Neil Adams. You get Michael Baer out of Neil Adams. I mean, you just keep going. There are Tom Grinberg you get out of Neil Adams. I mean, and then you get fractures, people who took pieces like Michael Golden and made them something completely different. But Neil's artistic impact is you can't argue with it. It's indisputable. It's incredible. Well, some of these comic books, little Robbie Liefeld in Anaheim, California, had no idea what was going on, other than the fact that I appeared to have stumbled upon a comic book that reflected the Avengers from Marvel battling a version of the Justice League. This is what I'm talking about when I talk about echoes and I talk about swipes and homages. To me, I call them echoes. I'm like, that guy's specifically, he's supposed to be Aquaman. I get it. That guy's supposed to be Green Lantern. I get it. See, Super Friends was on 1974, 1975 on Saturday mornings. Never missed it. Come on, there's a cartoon. It's got Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman. At first they had the crazy normal guys, and then the Wonder Twins, and I think that was Wendy and something else. But anyway, they eventually had the Wonder Twins, and they built it out, and then they had their own character, Apache Chief, Black Vulcan, and then you got an expansion of the proper Justice League with Green Lantern, the Flash, Cyborg. They did the superpowers. They did the Challenge of the Super Friends. One of my favorite cartoons. So I was very, very familiar. DC Comics had more stuff on the air. Wonder Woman with Linda Carter was a constant from like 75 through 77, 78. The Batman show with Adam West was in constant reruns twice a day when I was growing up, at 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock. You get 2 episodes of Batman. They had the earliest black and white Superman reruns that I watched. So I was way more familiar. The DC Comics heroes were more mainstream. The Incredible Hulk by Lou Ferrigno was coming. CBS's Spider-Man with the kid from Sound of Music, is it Hammond, was coming. A Doctor Strange standalone movie was coming. A couple of Captain America movies where he rode a motorcycle and had a motorcycle helmet. Those were coming. But Wonder Woman was glossy. It was well done. The first season of Wonder Woman with the World War II era was the best. It was the first. It launched. It's in the words of Steven Spielberg, Rob, no one will ever deny you punching a Nazi. The Nazis are the best bad guys. Everybody cheers when you punch a Nazi out. I mean, that also echoes stuff like Jack Kirby would say. So this was the landscape of the time. So if I saw DC themed characters running around in a Marvel book, it was instantly identifiable to me, and it was exciting. It looked and it felt a little like, is this okay? Like, is this happening? It would happen in the Avengers. And then there were 2 World War II books. We're not going to get deep into those, but at the time, during the same time frame, Marvel had their World War II comic called The Invaders. It was Captain America. It was Prince Namor, the Submariner, and Human Torch and his little, also torchy sidekick called Toro. So you had Cap and Bucky, Submariner, and then Human Torch and Toro, and then all manner of different characters mixed and matched around them. But they were battling evil and all the Nazi madness of World War II. Over in DC Comics, they had the Freedom Fighters, headed by no less than a superhero version of Uncle Sam, the tried and true Uncle Sam. Now, 75, 76, these are the most patriotic times that you could ever imagine possibly being in the United States of America. I've covered it before. The big dam, the water dam out here on the 91 freeway, still has remnants of when they painted it, made it an American flag. 1976, the bicentennial was coming. 1776, boom, to 1976, 200 years, okay? 200 years, the bicentennial. and they changed our currency. If you were a kid, they changed our coins to reflect the bicentennial with new imagery. They changed our dollars, our money, to reflect this celebration of 200 years. Okay, celebrating the bicentennial, 1776, 1976. Okay, and big deal. I don't know what they did in 1876. Missed out on that. But 1976, they got Jack Kirby to come back to Marvel Comics and do Captain America, and they had Captain America bicentennial tie-ins and big deals. And Captain America hit his 200th issue. It was a big deal. These were really big deals. So the Freedom Fighters and the Invaders were big patriotic flexes. And in the pages of the Freedom Fighters and in the pages of the Avengers, the Invaders, we're going to talk about the different echoes that they had, because the Invaders had a Freedom Fighters echo and the Freedom Fighters had an Invaders echo. Like I said, this stuff was in the water. And then in the end, we'll discuss X-Men, where this and issue 100 of X-Men are my favorite Dave Cockrum issues. Dave pencils and inks issue 100 for the most part. Dan Green inks him in this wonderful X-Men in 107, which is the last Dave Cockrum book. And I think as he walked out the door, he reflected an entire team. I'm looking at that going, hey, Colossal Boy is in a DC comic. Like, that looks like the Legion of Superheroes. Well, it was intentional. Dave Cockrum had made his bones. He made his name on DC's Legion of Superheroes. The Legion of Superheroes, you want to talk about a book that's faded even more than when I started this show 5 years ago? Legion of Superheroes, and we've done dedicated podcasts. And yes, I was reading the comments for this show, because of course now we're on video, and today we're going to utilize some of the tools that video now, provides us to be a little more visual and show the actual pictures and the stuff that I'm referencing. Somebody said, "Did you really? You said you had 400 episodes?" Yes, on Apple and Spotify there are, I think, 440 episodes. Am I wrong? I think that's the number, and counting. But this is only I believe this is our 4th video podcast. But I have talked about the Legion of Superheroes. My heart yearns for those days. It was one of DC's most popular books. At one point, it had 4 monthly titles. That's how popular the Legion was in the 80s. It was where the exciting stories, some great art was, incredible characters, and boy, it has just vanished. In a Batman-dominated world, DC no longer wants to roll the dice and put the big guns and try and... I think they've determined that there is no audience for that, and it's very weird, because there was a time the Legion was just exciting to fandom, just as exciting to fandom as the X-Men were and the Titans were. It was one of those can't miss comic books that had all of fandom buzzing. But Dave Cockrum was a fan favorite artist that blew up over at DC doing the Legion of Superheroes. So as on his last issue of X-Men, they battle Marvel's version of the Legion of Superheroes, and they're called the Imperial Guard. This is the first appearance of the Imperial Guard, who are, in fact, absolutely, indisputably, Dave Cockrum, who created them, will tell you, he's passed away, but he told me, as he would tell you, as he would say, they were the Legion. He was doing his Legion. But let's go back to the very beginning. So there were comic books, as I told you, that I would see and that I would encounter, but I couldn't partake in. Sometimes I didn't have enough money. It wasn't in my budget. But often it was like, no, you can't have that. You can't bring that home. This was one of these books. This is the first time I had seen the Squadron Sinister, which is what they're called before. They're called the Squadron Supreme. This Defenders issue 13, Superman, Flash, Green Lantern. Okay, that's how they read to me, and that's how they read. You got a super speedster. You got a guy who has a prism that uses light as a weapon to make objects, big hands, force fields, energy blasts. And then you got this big super heroic. Okay, this is my first time encountering the Squadron Sinister. And it says they strike again. So I didn't know when they struck first. I just knew these guys were cool, but I couldn't buy it. Not in the budget. Wasn't able to obtain it. Put that back, little Robbie Liefeld. But I registered it. It's one of those times. What you do is you stand in the grocery store and you wish, can I record all this in my brain as much as I can? Can I take this home? I got to tell you, Hulk Doctor Strange and Prince Namor, and sometimes Silver Surfer would fly in. To me, was the best lineup in comic books. I have bemoaned that a giant talent like a John Byrne, like a George Perez, like a Jim Starlin never did a run on Defenders, because I think it would have been the best thing ever. I was waiting. They had some of the best covers of an era. Some of the best artists, whoever was doing it, was like, look, maybe the interiors aren't up to par with what was coming out with the Avengers and the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, but we can give them great covers. This is the aforementioned Gil Kane, who was a cover editor around this time, sometimes doing 20 covers. So where did I see the Defenders again? Giant size Defenders for, once again, once more, the Squadron Sinister. There they are again. Okay? And you got the Wizard right here, the Speedster. You got your Superman. You got your Green Lantern. Okay? And then they had a Nighthawk. They had a different Nighthawk. So you're like, these guys are like the Justice League. These are they're the Justice League, except, red hair, red, yellow. The Hyperion was the furthest away from what you would think and understand a Superman clone to be. Dr. Spectrum, I got it. He doesn't look like Green Lantern, but his powers, and then the Wizard, yellow and blue, speeding all around. Okay. Well, my first dedicated, the beginning, there were so many other Avengers at Stater Brothers, another food market. I would grab. I would have Avengers 139, 137. I'd have them in my hands, but Patty Liefeld, not happening. You're not getting those. I was experiencing these comics by flipping through them at the grocery store, encountering these characters. But as I've said, and I revisit it biannually, I'm going to mention it so many times, your head's going to spin. The incredible cross section of Magnolia and Broadway, my youngest childhood memories in Anaheim. 7-Eleven faced a liquor store, faced the Stater Brothers food market, faced the Pizza Hut. Pizza Hut's still there. 7-Eleven jumped the street, took the liquor store when the liquor store moved out in the early 80s. The 7-Eleven is now a taqueria, okay? And the Stater Brothers became a health club, which got boarded up and has been closed for maybe 20 years. Big, empty. Pizza Hut's still there. 7-Eleven jumped. Biannually, I go and I drive through that neighborhood and I revisit it. And I rethink those magic memories. Because I don't know about what comics are for you, but they're magic to me. They are magic. I was listening to a talk show host this morning talk about her memories of a bus driver when she was in elementary school, and how very specific she remembered the look, the color of the hair, what she wore. And the other host is like, you don't remember? She goes, no, I remember it like it was yesterday. There's some stuff in our youthful minds that we retain, and they are fresh, and we can access those memories so fast, just boom, boom, boom. That's these memories for me, these comic book memories, this romance, this. I am literally falling in love with comic books during this time. I get Avengers 141. It makes it home with me. First, I read it in the front yard. In case, for some reason, it gets confiscated from by Paul and Patty. Yep, my parents were Paul and Patty. Paul and Patricia. Avengers 141, which just so happens to be, and they give you the introduction, introducing our newest Avenging Ace, George Perez artist. So this is also the debut. Now, I'd seen the Beast on the covers of the other aforementioned, 139, 138, 130, the other Avengers covers, but man, I really took to him, and I liked this art. I really enjoyed this particular art. And this is inked by Vinnie Coletta, who is, based on what how folks talk is nobody's idea of anybody's favorite inker. I never encountered him. He never inked me. But very shortly in this journey, Thor and Moondragon, who Thor was one of my favorites. He is traveling through time with a character called Immortus. Okay? He and Moondragon have accepted the invitation of Immortus, and they are traveling through time. Now, this is my reader copy. Okay, I've now taken to boarding up certain of my reader copies to go with the few collectible copies I have, because yes, I do want the nicest possible editions, but back in the day, I didn't care. Well, lo and behold, who arrives here? They're not the Squadron Sinister anymore. They're the Squadron Supreme. So let me just tell you, that's Green Arrow, that's Superman, that's Green Lantern, that's Black Canary, and that's the Flash. Mind blown. I'm looking at the Golden Archer. Now, Golden Archer and Lorelei had appeared in Captain America, if memory serves. But now the Squadron Supreme is attacking. And that's the freaking Justice League to me. And I'm like, oh, damn. And it is on. It is on as fast as you can possibly imagine. George Perez is hitting us with the Wizard, is running in and tackling Iron Man. And you've got Dr. Spectrum is blasting his way through the Vision. Lorelei is trying to shut down Scarlet Witch. This is, if you're 7 years old, like little Robbie Liefeld, you got the Golden Archer. Okay, the Golden Archer, the dude is so obvious. Obviously, Green Arrow has a hat just like Green Arrow. There was not a great. They were not exactly going out of their way to hide the fact. Okay, I'm sorry. I called her Lorelei. That's Lady Lark. Also, last episode, I called Bo Jackson Barry Sanders. I knew better, but you're right to have called me out. It was Bo Jackson who went both ways, not Barry Sanders, not even ever. And I knew that, but I'm just fueling this with my hyper energy, and I don't have a fact checker over here that's beaming me in like, Rob, you're gonna regret saying that. Okay. Correction. Lady Lark, not Lorelei. Lady Lark, okay, is our Black Canary. Golden Archer, is the Green Arrow Echo. And maybe this is the first time they call them, because the guy says it's Supreme, not Sinister Avengers, just so you know who'll cream you. They make it right there. It's Supreme, not Sinister. So maybe this is their first appearance as the Squadron Supreme. I had seen them as the Squadron Sinister, but obviously they looked exactly alike. And so, you get this incredible throwdown. And you guys, I would love to tell you that is where my fascination stopped. But it gets better. Oh, baby, baby, baby. It gets better, okay? Because just a few short months later, you get one of the greatest covers, one of my favorites, by Jack Kirby. Look at that. Jack Kirby. The freaking Hyperion is throwing Thor, although this technically doesn't really appear. He is throwing them all on the pile, okay? And we've expanded. Now you got Hawkman. I'm sorry, Captain Hawk. Not Captain, Captain. Hello, Captain. Captain Hawk. It's C-A-P apostrophe. And how do I know this? Let me tell you guys. Got this on the way to dinner with my parents. And you know where I read this? I read this at Bob's Big Boy. Bob's Big Boy. Going out to Bob's Big Boy was a delight. It was a special thing. My parents were in the booth. They were talking, and all I could do was read my Avengers 148. So here's the roll call. Okay, I'm not going to do a whole lot within this issue. I don't want to mess it up that much. But you got Hyperion. You got Dr. Spectrum. You got Golden Archer. You got Lady Lark. Captain Hawk. Hello, Captain Hawk. Wizard. Amphibian. Aquaman Alert. Tom Thumb. Atom Alert. The Atom. They've literally made the Justice League. As a kid, you're looking at this. God bless you, George Perez. This whole shot just turned my mind inside out, turned me on in a way that I couldn't possibly imagine. The freaking Justice League is standing over the Avengers. And guys, in case you didn't notice, that's issue 8. This storyline won't wrap up until the next issue 149. Now, there was a 2-issue fill-in during this storyline, but you got 141, 142, 143, 144. Okay, we detour like 146, 147 around then, but we come back. This is like a 7-issue storyline where basically Marvel's answer to version of the Justice League is thrashing on the Avengers. I'm 7 when it starts. I'm 8 as it concludes. Okay, I do that a lot. Because, like I'm telling you, Bob's big boy sitting there just drinking this in, and this is some good stuff. This inker, his name's Sam Granger, and he inked a whole lot. But man, did I like him. Man, and again, here's Amphibian. There's Amphibian. Okay, there's our Aquaman Echo. I just, in my mind, I'm like, how is this happening? How is this? These are Marvel comics. Marvel was more mysterious. They had creators I liked more, like a George Perez, like a John Byrne. They had writers. I've talked about it often. I'd look at Justice League. It didn't grab me because it didn't have that Marvel style of action and drama. And let me tell you something. I've talked about it. The 777 open on action, slow it down for 7, close with 7 and a cliffhanger. That's what this does. That's what these do. That's what all these do. The end of 141, the Squadron Supreme has defeated the Avengers and is carrying them away. So as a kid, you're like, Hyperion's carrying Beast, okay? That they have been defeated. Wizard's got Iron Man over his shoulder. The Echoes, to my mind, all I'm seeing is the Justice League take down the Avengers and then start this year-long battle, which then culminates 148, 149. And then we're into Avengers 150, 151, where they get the new lineup. And at this point, I have figured out the rotation, and I have figured out the pattern of monthly comics. And I am bouncing between all of my distribution networks. My 7-Eleven, my liquor store. I've told you guys before, the liquor store had the better selection, had more, way more. 7-Eleven, they were on a shelf. Two lower shelves below the paperback books, below the Harlequin romances, below all these, romance and adventure novels. And they'd stand them there. They'd stand them there like here, next to this, on it's like almost 2 steps. And honestly, maybe 18, 20 comics total. The liquor store, whoa! They had comics from other companies. They had Gold Key comics. They had Charlton comics. Okay, I was like exposed to all manner of different comic companies, and they had even more Marvel and even more. And the dudes at the liquor store, they loved me. They thought I was a funny little kid who came in, bought a Twinkie, bought a ding dong, candy, soda, comic book. Okay, and I would go back on the daily if I got quarters, if I found some in the seats, if I found some in the cushions. So this entire Avengers Squadron Supreme storyline just stuck with me. I was always so entertained by it, and it really was a seminal year to people my age. You grab the kids who were growing up when I was a kid, and this is like when they were really being exposed to this. Now, as I said, at the same time, over in the Invaders, they're battling a version of the Freedom Fighters, and the Freedom Fighters are battling who I believe a version of the Invaders called I think the Freedom Fighters in the Invaders are called the Crusaders. But it's like, why are Marvel characters battling DC Echoes all the time? Very strange. So this is like 1975. This is happening in 1976, okay? And what am I telling you? In 77, we get the Legion of Superheroes. And you know what? They're not hiding it. And this is another fantastic display to show you it. Because now we get to look at the pictures on video. We get to take our video cues, okay? And, you guys, grab this one from 7-Eleven. Was dropped off at my grandparents' house. They had a den in my grandfather's house. And I just poured over this bad boy. So you got the X-Men. Oh, man, they've been transported, but what a splash page. That's incredible. If that original art went up, we're talking 600,000 plus for this bad boy. And then, ooh la la, boom. I mean, I poured over this. When I mean poured over this, I mean stared and stared and stared. Because there's Phantom Girl, there's Colossal Boy, there's Ultra Boy, there's Timberwolf, there's Firestar, there's Lightning Lad, Sun Boy, all of them. Chameleon Boy right down there, Chameleon Boy, Colossal Boy. This is the Legion of Superheroes against the X-Men. Off planet. I mean, even more like, what is going on? How am I even going to function? The Legion of Superheroes, who I was also buying. It was one of my favorite comic books coming out from DC. And I had the tail end of the the Cockrum issues that I was able to get, and the early Mike Grell issues, and then Mike Grell and Dave Cockrum inking each other, I am familiar with the Legion of Superheroes. And wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. There they are. Let's look at that one more time. Oh, wonka wonka. That is, like I said, I already gave you a roll call. I gave you all of their DC or origin names. Okay. Fang is Timberwolf. Gladiator is Superboy, and I think that guy's name is Titan. He's Colossal Boy. They all face off. It's an all fight comic. They do nothing but fight. Let them fight, and they do. Great, all action. Dave Cockrum says goodbye with a tribute, echo, homage, swipe to his previous hit book that he left to come over and do Marvel work. This one resonated with me even deeper than the Squadron Supreme. And the next issue, no one knew. Nobody said John Byrne is coming. John Byrne, who you really like on these other books that he's doing. John Byrne, first issue, the second part of this, the concluding chapter of this. So John Byrne and Terry Austin give us the Legion of Superheroes called the Imperial Guard. And come on, guys, let's not kid ourselves. That's who they are. So in my 30s, after launching X-Force, creating Cable, Deadpool, Domino, all the rest, starting Image Comics, launching Youngblood, Extreme Studios is probably in its fourth year. I licensed, and we're going to talk a little more about that now that we have video, but not today. I licensed a character, a patriotic character, because I really had fallen in love with doing Captain America, but Marvel had gone bankrupt. And all the terms and all the contracts were upside down. So I said, no, thank you. Stepped away. I told my story. I did 6 issues of Captain America. I was gone. Jack Kirby had passed, but I knew Roz, his wife. She had been very lovely with me. But I was told the guy I have to talk to is Mr. Joe Simon, co-creator of Captain America. So I engaged with Joe Simon. I'll go deeper with you on that on video here soon. But Fighting American emerges. Well, Marvel accused me, even though, and we were able to show a judge, and the judge scolded Marvel, said, how dare you? Why did you accuse Rob Liefeld of doing a character and saying he created a ripoff of Captain America when you, Marvel Comics, in 1989 published Fighting American? Fighting American is the character that Joe Simon and Jack Kirby created that was an echo of Captain America. Very similar, even down to Bucky. Instead of Bucky, it was Speed Boy. Like, as close, if not closer, than the Imperial Guard is to the Legion, than the Squadron Supreme is to the Justice League, than the Crusaders are to the Invaders, okay? Or to the freedom fighters. While this is going on, Marvel literally, in their ruling, they tried to get a temporary restraining order. And I'll take you through that more in depth in the future. It all blew up in their face. They lost. Period, they lost. Fighting American was published by Rob Liefeld. Joe Simon was 100% behind me the entire time. But because they had made that accusation and people like Wizard Magazine had irresponsibly, knowingly, tried to paint, tar and feather me with, which is a term for humiliation, saying he's just a ripoff guy. No less than, at the time, experiencing a little bit of heat, Kurt Busiek, who had written Youngblood for me. I had paid him to write Youngblood issues. He jumped on back in the early days, and I'm going to give you some sound effects for those of you who are back there to reenact what that sounded like. And what that sounded like, what I'm going to describe to you, is called CompuServe, message boards. And I got through them via the earliest application of the internet, AOL, and it went something like this. Okay, that was me doing a computer connection from 1996, 1997. Someone was saying, "Hey, man, what are you doing, ripping off?" I'm like, Fighting American was published in the 50s and the 60s. This is a pre-existing character that I licensed. I paid money to have access to this character. And so I said, really, he is not a version or a in the rendering of an Imperial Guard or a Squadron Supreme or any of those. It's his own thing. He already pre-exists. You're ripping off. I'm not ripping off. This is from the owners, the people. It's from the people who created Captain America. I licensed Fighting American. And during this discourse, Kurt Busiek was one of the people who came on board and said, you know, Rob, you continue to reference this period where the companies would, you know, produce echoes. But Rob, that was something done with the consent of both sides. That's because the Marvel and the DC guys, and he just said guys, would go hang out at bars and restaurants after hours in Manhattan, away from their respective public houses, and they were buddies, and they'd be like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if we did this? And hey, wouldn't it be funny if we did this? Hey, and I went, hey, that's all well and good, Kurt. But tell that to 8-year-old Robbie Liefeld and fill in the blank anybody else, whether you were 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, whatever you were during that time. You didn't know this. You didn't know that the guys from Marvel and the guys from DC were, all you knew was that you saw the Legion of Superhero and the X-Men. You saw the Justice League in the Avengers. You saw the Invaders fighting the Freedom Fighters. You saw the Freedom Fighters fighting the Invaders, okay? And you were digging it and you loved it, but you didn't need some sort of qualification. For whatever reason, it passed legal, it passed the executive branch, and it made it into my hands. I lived in Anaheim, California, pretty much as far as you could be from the Manhattan offices of DC and Marvel as possible. There were no fanzines that were available to me until 1980, so certainly not in 75, 76, 77, 78, 79. Am I able to reference any of this? I'm not even starting to meet these people until 1979, 1980. But we as kids didn't know this. All we knew was what we got in print, what we got, and it did shape us. It did shape us. And someone said the other day, hey, Rob, you have an undersea character named Roman. Was he based on Namor? And I said, what do you think? Pretty great name. Always thought, wow, Namor backwards is Roman. Roman's a great name. I'm going to have an undersea character and call him Roman. Yes, purposeful. My echo, my homage, in the same way that they were doing theirs. You know, when Todd first launched Spawn and he brought the legal letter into an image meet, he was so excited. He had just gotten a letter from Marvel the day prior, and I've covered this before. And he brought it with us. He was flying in for a partners meeting in Anaheim. And so Jim and Mark and Eric, everyone was arriving. Todd whipped out this letter from Marvel Comics. He had it on Marvel Comics stationery. And it was from Marvel and their legal department accusing Spawn of infringing on the motifs associated with Ghost Rider, the chains, the skull. They said the cape was reminiscent of Doctor Strange. Todd did this thing like, dear Mr. Marvel attorney guy, F you, and he wrote it in a Sharpie. So I'm sending this to them. Chains and skulls predate Ghost Rider. He said, chains and skulls predate the Ghost Rider, and the capes are not exclusive to Doctor Strange. Okay, I was there. He scribbled this out in my Extreme Studios in our big meeting room, and I was howling. And he's like, can you believe these guys? But these were the lengths that they would go to try and make the rules different for us than the rules had been for them. Well, they are giving you a blatant echo of the Legion of Superheroes or the Justice League in their pages. Don't you dare use those skulls and chains, because we own. Todd's like, you are assuming that you somehow have exclusive rights and ownership to chains and to skulls. Oh, it's great. It was a howl and a half. This stuff happened, people. It happened. Like I said, history has recorded some of this stuff. It is what shapes rivalries. It is what shapes agendas. They tried to shut down, because you know what happened? The guy who had quadrupled sales on Captain America decided, I kind of like patriotic characters. I cut a deal. Fighting American. We're off to the races. Joe Simon, Captain America guy, co-creator. Doesn't exist without him. Cheering me on. They didn't like that. He can't distribute that. That's theft. The next time I'm on, I'll hold you the Marvel published, Marvel compiled in the most handsome hardcover editions at a point where handsome hardcover editions were just starting to be a thing. It was compiled, and I took it on my very first flight to Marvel Comics in 1989, and I read it on the plane. And I was like, these Simon and Kirby fighting American stories are awesome. But no access for you. We're gonna tell the judge you created fighting. The judge was incensed when he's like, you knew better. They were just trying to get a quick temporary restraining order, which they were denied because we had a lawyer in the offices to meet them the very next morning. They had faxed us at 9 p.m. our time. We had a guy take a midnight flight, an overnight flight, go straight to a representative of my company, went straight to New York. It was actually Matt Hawkins, he can tell you. And there was an attorney that we had hired overnight to walk in and blunt this and stop it, which then set up the court ruling, the court date, and the court ruled in Liefeld's favor, okay? Fighting American was published. He had a shield. That's it. That's all you need to know. The Wizard magazine tried to say, well, but he can't throw the shield. We never said he was going to throw the shield. Our shield fired rockets and had knives in it, okay? We had other things to do. Echoes, homages, swipes. This period of comic book history would find Marvel and DC going back and forth, and it influenced an entire generation like me, who we thought, this is fun. This is kind of, anything goes. And guess what? Hyperion probably, you could say, gave birth to Supreme, who gave birth to Invincible and Omni-Man, who gave birth to the Sentry, who gave birth to Homelander. Because why doesn't everybody get a Superman type character? Why not? Why not? Because we'd seen it, and we had our own takes. I dig Invincible. Guy from another planet, alien from another planet, has giant superpowers, comes out, okay, it's got a Superman-ness to it, and it's cool, because it's different. It takes a totally different path. Swerves, but within the same kind of style. Supreme, I did it. I did it with Supreme. Sentry is another Marvel take, because they can't have too many of them. Hyperion, Sentry, there's another I can't think. Homelander, okay? All of these Superman-styled, what I called echoes. We were trained by these echoes. These would be the comics that made us. The comics that made us. Okay? You want to talk about echoes? Orca, advertised on the back of this, doesn't exist if not Jaws. You think you're really getting a movie about a killer whale terrorizing people in the water if Jaws? Orca does not happen without Jaws, okay? It was the age of the echo, and I was all too happy to have experienced it and been inspired by it. And I carried out those inspirations in my own career. As I mentioned at the top of the show, the comics is my lifeblood. This vein, I think this is peanut butter and chocolate, and this one, again, this is comics. This is the stuff that I love. This is the stuff that drives me to this day. I want to say this all the time at the top of every show, but I'm going to say it here at the bottom. What have I been doing here talking comic books with you? Well, it's because I love them. I love comics, okay? And the bottom line is every day I watch sports figures gather. Ex-NBA stars, ex-NFL stars, MLB, hockey. They all gather. The round table is a thing. It's a thing we all enjoy, and they all offer their input. Some guys played 4 years. Some guys played 14 years. Some guys played 5 years. Not a lot of the greats are sitting at the table other than the TNT gang, which boasts its Hall of Famers. Those, I mean, Shaq and Kenny and their multiple rings, and Charles and his desire to have one. But Charles was a great impact superstar, all-timer. Nowadays, the stuff that you find on Fox and ESPN, some of these guys were lucky to even see the field. They're backups. They're very few of them were standouts in the field. But they're talkers. I'm not talking about Gronk. I'm not talking about Howie Long. Those guys were genuine, giant superstars. But you got a lot of programming to fill. Monday through Friday, multiple hours. So these guys make their way, and they talk, and they give their takes, and sometimes they're super cringe, And, when they can give their best experience, it's fun. But they're out of the game. The other day, one of them was giving a dissertation on the Boston Celtics, and no less than Kevin Durant commented on X and said, look at these guys, washed up, tired, retired guys, trying to, get into the minds of today's players. Give it a break, guys. Like, you retired for a reason. Stop. So my thing is, I'm still making comics. I've put out over 100 pages in 2025 and counting. And I try and do 5 to 6 comics a year. Sequentials. Last year it was Deadpool Team Up. This year it's Youngblood. Lots of Youngblood. By the time we hit summertime, I will have done 120. I will have exceeded my 2024 take by the time I get to the middle of the year. Bottom line is, I am still making my collections are coming out from the publishers that I work with, from Marvel, from DC. I've got my Image stuff, my reprints. The reprint of Youngblood from 33 years ago sold out. The second printing is on the way. The brand new Youngblood sold out. We continue to sell out. I am talking comics, but I'm also making comics. My perspective will probably change a little when I hang it up, but when I look over the last decade and the 1,500 pages I did, which is easily over 100 pages a year, which just qualifies me. I believe that being in the business matters, and knowing the people in the business and having the connections, and being in on the distribution and the process of creating and getting these books to you is crucial to what I bring to the table. And I'm committed at least for another 5 years. And I've said 62. I feel like I'll reevaluate. I don't know what I'm going to do then, but right now, 57 years old. I'll be 58 in the fall. And I am loving every minute of it. I love attacking comics, drawing comics. I do them by hand. I do them on Bristol. And I love making them. I love sharing them. I love the selling and the promoting of them. I love it. There are a lot of comics that I used to buy that I don't buy anymore. I'm at a bit of a lull right now. But there are several. I'm checking out a couple of the Absolute books at DC. And I'm buying a couple Spider-Man related books at Marvel. I'm buying Battle Beast, and I'm buying Bug Wars, and lots of stuff that's escaping me right now. I'll try and go through like everything that I'm enjoying soon. But I am participating in comics right now. But I have grown up and shared with you from the 70s to the seminal 80s. I was there. I watched it happen. Sometimes I see people try and reframe things, and it's preposterous. You're not going to reframe the fact that Frank Miller pushed everything else aside and transformed Daredevil, and then did the same thing with Batman. You're not going to change the fact that John Byrne was one of the most influential people for 10 years in this business, from 1975 to 85, 86, 76, 86, whatever. 10, 12 years, doesn't matter. You're not going to change that 7 guys created the third largest comic book company, and it stayed that way for 33 years now, Image Comics. You're not going to change the fact that the 2000s post-bankruptcy was rough on Marvel, and that they had a scattershot approach to publishing and threw a bunch of stuff against the wall, and it didn't quite stick. They had that same exact plan in the 70s, and it was much more exciting. And we're going to do a lot. We're going to cover a bunch of the action adventure stuff that I was alive to see and experience and grab. And as I said, I didn't collect. There's no bags and boards. The comics came with tears and warts and water stains. I consumed them. I consumed comics. And I thank you for being on this journey with me, consuming them with you on the Rob Liefeld Show on Robservations. At the end of each and every episode, you guys have been so incredibly, ridiculously, got to get the glasses on, generous with the reviews that you continue to pour out. And I'm going to continue to share them because you're so damn incredibly generous, because I understand what it takes to do this. Here's a really nice one. I'm gonna not say the person's name, but occasionally people want to get a little nasty. This one says Stutterer City. Marvel, bad. Listening to this podcast is a painful experience. And I got 1 star. At least I got 1 star out of it. That's a review. I just shared it with you. Okay. But there have been so many really. This is like, you never know what you're going to get. I'm going to share this with you. This came through last week. Okay. Thank you, Rob. 5 stars. Love the podcast. It's great that I can safely listen in the morning with my teen daughter around, at work or whenever. I am currently listening to your earlier episodes from the very beginning at a rate of 3 a day. You've uncovered some distant childhood memories from a fan who is about your age. I am making a list to catch up on Marvel 2-in-1, Avengers, and Fantastic Four that were published before I started collecting. Thank you for reigniting my passion for comic books and highlighting ones that I have missed. Thank you, Rob. Yes! His name is Boss with the Sauce. Boss with the Sauce left that, and I am so thankful that you listen to the show and that you're digging it. And I just, thank you, sir. This was read at the same time. Patrick McHugh. Okay. Faxes and facts. This is the greatest podcast. Okay. 5 stars. Thank you. Rob's passion for the comics industry is contagious, and his comics industry knowledge and recall is unmatched. He remembers everything and then brings all the receipts, the actual articles, the faxes, and the memos to back it all up. The podcast is fun, it's honest, and it keeps my fire for comic books fueled. And it's all advertisement free. No sponsors, no lame commercials, just comic books. Thank you, Rob. Patrick McHugh, right here. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time out. Send, hitting those, writing those, posting those. Those are from the Apple Podcast. I get some from Spotify. I'm now getting some of your comments from YouTube. We're going to start reading those next week. I hope you guys are enjoying this video format. It exists because you demanded it. This is literally because the fans demanded it. It exists. It's here. It's now. It's happening. And I am excited. I hope you are enjoying it. It gives us, again, a little bit of a visual component. And I am just so thankful that we are sharing this together. When I'm not doing this crazy pod video cast, I am all over social network, okay? I am all over social media. I'm on the platform formerly known as Twitter, X, but we still send tweets. What's that about? I am at Robert Liefeld, ROBERTLIEFELD with a blue check. It signifies I am the genuine article. That's me you're talking to. I am reading your mentions, your comments, your DMs. Thank you so much for interacting with me. I love how social media made a big world smaller, that we can connect, that we can talk. I try and respond to as many of you as I possibly can and interact in an aggressive manner, as aggressive manner as I can. Thank you. Maybe sometimes it's just a highlight, a star, a favorite. If it's something deeper, I only have so much time each and every day, but I read them. I try to respond to them, and I am just thankful for you reaching out and connecting with me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Robert Liefeld Blue Check. That's me. Instagram, again, Rob Liefeld, ROBLIEFELD Blue Check. Again, that's me. That signifies it is the Liefeld that you are speaking to. That is my visual diary of who I'm hanging with, who I'm eating with, the fun that I have drawing, the vacations, the trips, the experiences, the conventions, the signings. Thank you so much for following me on Instagram. I so enjoy your comments, your messages, again, your DMs, all of your replies. Thank you for experiencing that platform with me. I, again, try to get back to as many of you as possible. I get a lot of messages on that platform. I'm trying to keep up. Thank you. That is where you're going to see sneak peeks of Giant Size Youngblood, of some of the surprise projects you haven't heard about, of new issues of Youngblood. Youngblood 2, I'm dying to show it to you guys. Youngblood 1 has been out for about 6 weeks. The second issue is getting ready to go on press this summer. You're going to have Giant Size Youngblood number 1. I can't wait to share that with you. That is something that you'll be able to obtain and pick up from me at Comic-Con in San Diego in July. So thank you for following me on Instagram. I will look for you there. We have a group called Rob Liefeld, Marvel Extreme and Beyond. It's on Facebook. It's a Facebook group. If you click over to join, myself or a gentleman named Terry Sala, SALA, will be the ones who we will click you on through. We have a fun group. We don't let fights break out or nasty things be said. Those people are always shown the door. We have a great, buoyant, excited group of people who love comic books and love talking comic books. Each and every episode of this show is given its own thread post over there, so you guys can build that out, talk about it, discuss it. We have great art contests, incredible talent. that are happening over there. I would love for you to experience this group. Great energy, great vibes. It's a Facebook group. Rob Liefeld, Marvel Extreme and Beyond is the name of the group, and I hope to see you there. If you don't already have the Whatnot app, get it. You'll get notified when I go live. It is the premier live streaming app for everything. It's not just comic books. There's kicks and sports gear and cards and games and all manner of toys and collectibles. We are in the comic book section. If you follow Rob Liefeld, again, you'll be notified when I go live. And when I go live, we have exclusive comics. We have these Youngblood books that are only available through me. 32 pages, a 36-page comic, all brand new material. We have other exclusive variant covers from Deadpool to X-Force to Captain America to Spider-Man. We have to Batman. We have so many exclusives, and I do all manner of exclusive signatures, custom signatures, Liefeld chisel, a drop shadow chisel, a blood splatter chisel. Find out what all this craziness is by tuning in when we go live. Get the Whatnot app, download it, load me into the system, follow me, and I will see you there, because it's just like this. I'm talking to you. I'm holding up comics. We're doing stuff. It's fun. There's art. There's Funkos. There's toys. So I will look forward to seeing you on our Whatnot feeds. I am coming up in Arizona, Scottsdale, Arizona, at Fantastic Worlds Comic Books. Bill Poncetti is the owner. I love that guy. He's the coolest guy. I appeared there 4 years ago. I had the best time. I haven't been to Arizona since. I haven't been to Arizona since summer of 2021. I'm coming back. I'm bringing a brand new, I'll probably have in my hands for the next show, a brand new Youngblood copy, an exclusive comic book just for Bill's store, just for Fantastic Worlds. And we are only going to have it that day. When that day is over, it's over. Those copies are gone. We are really printing to order. It's tight. It's a tight window. You can go to robliefeldcreations.com and order your copy for my Fantastic Worlds signing at Scottsdale, Arizona. I'll be there from 12 to 4, maybe 12 to 5. I'll be signing the entire day. People didn't believe. I told Golden Apple, I said, I will be here the entire time. Yeah, we built out 3 hours. I signed for 6.5 hours. I told Ryan said, you're not going to stand. I said, I only stand. If they're standing, I'm standing. So I'll be there standing. Can't wait to see you. Can't wait to fist bump, take pictures. Can't wait to interact with you guys at Fantastic Worlds in Scottsdale, Arizona, May 31st, okay? Couple of weeks here. Don't miss it. I'd love to see you. I won't be in Arizona other than that store appearance. I haven't been there in 4 years. This will be my first and final appearance for the near future. So come out and see me. I can't wait to see you there. Is that possibly everything that I had to share? Well, if it isn't, then I forgot, and I'm the lesser man for it. But thank you for taking this time. Thank you for hanging out with me. I am reminded at the end of each and every show that life is grind for all of us. And it is my desire to let you know that I hope that your physical, your emotional, your spiritual, and your mental well-being are in the best possible shape. I hope that you are doing well. I hope that you are thriving. I hope that you got up today and you got after it. Look, each and every day brings its own burdens, its own trials, and we all have to kind of manage it. We all understand family commitments, grinding at work, all the different stuff that we have to shuffle. Guys, it's not easy for any of us. We all kind of get through it in different ways. But I am just giving you encouragement to take a half hour, an hour, an extra block of time this weekend. Make time for yourself. See that movie you've been meaning to see. Go out, dinner, coffee with friends. Go get that slice of cake, that cupcake. Oh my gosh, next to my favorite ice cream place, there's a cupcake sign. I'm like, oh my gosh. A brand new cupcake place is coming. I love cupcakes more than maybe anything in life. I don't talk about them as much because I don't get to interact with them. If there was a sprinkles outside my house, I'm not sure what would happen. I'm not sure if all the teeth would be gone first or if I would die from some sort of sugar overdose. But you guys, it's about taking those little moments, getting away, getting off the grind, getting off this treadmill that just we all find ourselves on, and taking some time for yourself. I have one Reese's Big Cup a day, one gigantic indulgence. The thicker chocolate shell is it's so far superior than anything they've ever done before. And I've tried all the stuff they put in it, pickles, hair, pretzels, chips, soda pop, whatever. I'm just back to the very basic. But I love the Big Cup. It's maybe the best 90 seconds of my day, okay? Each and every day. I can count on it, okay? That's part of what I'm talking to you. it's part of what I'm talking about. You got to indulge. You got to look out for yourself. I hope that you are doing well and that you are going to continue to do well. I'm rooting for you. We got a holiday coming up. I hope you have the very best Memorial Day holiday. I am going to give you, boom, a fist bump, the Blue Yeti, Mike, from me to you, wishing you all the best. Do not leave me here. Do not strain me. Come back. Come find me. I'll be right out there. We will most definitely, absolutely, inevitably, we're going to inevitably talk again real soon.